Samsung's latest flagships, and this year's Galaxy S line is more of a refinement than a complete revamp, which is perfectly fine because there wasn't a whole lot wrong with the design of last year's model. It's still made of glass on the front and back with an all-metal frame, but everything pretty much has been rounded off at every angle. The back tapers down on the sides similar to the Note 5, and all the corners and sides have been rounded off as well, which means it doesn't have that sharp feel in the hand that a lot of people complained about with last year's S6 Edge, and overall it's just a very comfortable feeling phone. Samsung has also heard the complaints and added back a few features that were stripped away from last year's S6 and S6 Edge. There's still no removable battery, but it's IP68 dust and water resistant again, and Samsung has brought back micro SD card expansion built into the SIM tray, but you also have the option of running 2 SIM cards instead if you don't care about the expandable storage. Another big issue with last year's Galaxy S was battery life, but with the S7 Edge packing a huge 3600 mAh battery inside, there should be no reason why this phone can't go a full day, if not a little bit more. It's a little bit larger of a phone this year as well, and most of this is due to having a bigger display. It's a 5.5-inch Quad HD screen, and it's AMOLED just as you would expect from any typical Samsung phone. So of course you're getting those super vibrant saturated colors, wide viewing angles, and inky deep blacks. It's an always-on display now too, which means you can peek at your notifications, calendar, time, and weather, all without having to wake up the phone, and Samsung says it drains less than 1% of the phone's actual battery life. The dual curved edges still give off that really cool waterfall effect, and Samsung has added some additional software tweaks to further take advantage of the Edge display. You still have the People Edge and Apps Edge just like before, but now you have 2 columns of apps, which makes it a lot more useful. New to the Edge UI is the Task Edge and what Samsung likes to call the Edge panel. The Task Edge is pretty self-explanatory. It lets you add a shortcut to specific tasks like adding a calendar event, composing a text message, or taking a selfie to make things that you would normally do on a daily basis much quicker and easier. The Edge panel, on the other hand, is basically a bunch of customizable widgets that you can pick and choose between, such as stocks, Yahoo News, calendar, or weather to quickly give you information at a glance. The software is TouchWiz on top of Android Marshmallow, and this is probably the cleanest version of TouchWiz we've seen yet. The squared circle icons aren't the most eye-pleasing things in the world, but they're definitely a big improvement over Samsung's previous icons, and they finally ditched the blue-green color scheme for a much more simple-looking blue and white. The camera has also seen quite a few improvements. First off, the large camera bulge is pretty much gone for the most part. There's still a slight bump, but it's nowhere near as drastic as before, and it definitely makes for a much cleaner and more streamlined design. The camera itself is a 12 megapixel sensor, which may sound like a downgrade from last year's 16 megapixels, but this reduction in megapixels allows for a much larger pixel size at 1.4 microns for improved low light performance, which is augmented even further with the wide f1.7 aperture. The camera is also utilizing a dual pixel setup, which is the first of its kind in a smartphone, and this allows for much faster focusing even in low light, and trust us when we say this, it's pretty damn fast. Now, as far as specs go, during our meeting, Samsung would not mention the processor or RAM. We're assuming the Exynos 8890, but we'll definitely keep you posted on AndroidAuthority.com once Samsung confirms this information. So until then, hopefully you enjoyed this quick look of the Samsung S7 Edge, and stay tuned for the rest of our MWC 2016 coverage.